it's beautiful because she said something that really touched my heart, which is it's okay to be all over the place. You know, it's really okay to be all over the place. And I knew why she said that to me. It's because I was having judgments that I was being all over the place, right? And as a course student and as a course teacher, we learn to have acceptance. And I recognized I had a little blind spot there of where I wasn't catching myself and I was judging myself because I'm all over the place, right? And she's like, it's okay that you're all over the place. I was like, really? It's okay, I could be all over the place. I literally felt like, oh my God, thank you, I could be all over the place, you know? And I was like, oh my God, thank you, Laura. It was like the perfect thing I needed to hear. Then my next question was this: how do I give this workshop being all over the place?
That's so
and there's no children here. It's like, fuck, am I going to give a workshop being all over the place, right? And that's what Live Your Happy is. It's so beautiful. That's what my book is about. My book is about living the principles of the Course in Miracles. I don't call it live a Course in Miracles because it's played out. You know, we've heard that many times. So Live Your Happy is really living the principles of the Course. So what does that look like? It looks like this. It looks like I'm going through whatever I'm going through, and it's okay. I'll still show up and I'll shine the light. And it's not about Maria looking good or having it together or being the perfect mother or being the perfect wife or being the perfect speaker. It's about showing up and being authentic and how do I apply these tools in my daily life? How do I walk my talk, right? So I come in here and she says that, and it's like, wow, okay, I have to acknowledge that I haven't given myself the permission to be all over the place. I can't. I have to have it together. I'm a teacher of God, you know, I can't be stressing out right now. And I'm like, well, no, because now we're going to go into the teachings a little bit. I talk really a lot about in my book about feeling your feelings and that it's okay. And to really feel and go deep in your feelings and feel the sadness and feel the upset, and you give it over. You know, you got to feel it to heal it, right? So within the feeling, you actually awaken, right? But I wasn't giving myself the permission to because I was so busy with the baby and changing his diapers or attending to him. Busy at being a wife or being with my father or whatever, all these different focuses. And Laura and I were talking about how as women we're all about, you know, multitasking. You know, it's like we're like multitaskers, and then when we have children, it's like it pumps up the volume. You know, it's like big time multitasking. It's like you're the Inspector Gadget, and you have all these, you know, Inspector Gadget with all these things. You feel like there's hands just coming out of all the places, and you have, you know, you're trying to get everything done. So how I've been able to really practice the principles of my book is to be very authentic, and it's okay that I'm all over the place. It's all good. And that's what Live Your Happy is. It's being acceptance of you're all over the place, you don't feel good, you have issues with your family, you have problems, you have all of this, and it's okay. It doesn't mean that you're not happy. It doesn't mean that you are not loved. It doesn't mean that you're not light. This is what the Course is teaching us. It doesn't mean anything. It just means that you're all over the place. And it's really, people are like, oh, I need to find balance. I want to find balance. You know, I need to have balance. Oh, you know? Oh, right? I need to have balance. Listen, there's no such thing as balance. In this sphere that we're in, there's no balance. Because this place is Google for Cocoa Puffs. Have you got the memo? It's crazy. There's no balance here because it's a place of duality. It's a place of separation. So there can't be any balance. The only balance that you can what makes you unhappy is you trying to balance this world. That's what gives you your unhappiness. But the only thing that you're capable of having balance is your thoughts. Is your mind. Is how you deal with these concepts that the Course in Miracles talks about, which is fear and love. And you can balance there by my sign is Libra, right? So I already have like the balance, right? So we want to balance more of the voice of spirit in our minds. We wanna really balance that part of our minds and really pump up the volume on that part of our minds. That's the only way that we're going to experience the happiness that we're worthy of. Although what happens is the ego tricks, which is something I want to talk about today, the ego wants to manipulate, wants to make happen, wants to balance form, have it together, right? In the morning, my to-do list, do it perfect. Listen, with a child, there's no to-do nothing. The only thing you do is that person. You know, there's no to-do anything. You know, I always call it the love-do list. I'd rather repeat love-do instead of to-do. To-do feels like I gotta really do it, you know? It's a little heavy. The love-do feels more like light, you know? So in the morning, I always do my love-do list, and if I get to it, good. If I don't get to it, that's okay too, you know? But I was saying, how do I show up in my workshop today? And how do I talk about happiness when I'm not feeling fully happy in my life right now? How does that even, what does that even look like? Mm-hmm. I'm a happiness teacher. I wrote a book called Live Your Happy, and I'm not feeling happy right now. How does that look like? I'll tell you. Just because I'm not showing up, ha ha ha, he he he, doesn't mean I'm not happy. That's actually false happiness that comes from our ego, that is temporary, and it's not eternal and long lasting. The happiness that comes from an ego is a happiness that would come of me looking good and showing, and everybody showing up, and this being a lot of people here. That's where the ego would want my happiness to come from. Or the ego would be, it's always constantly, if I would do it perfect, then that I would be happy. So that's cheerleader happiness. Cheerleader happiness is what I call the happiness of the world, which has to do with things in form are working out a certain way, then I'm happy. Right? So everything is conditional. It's conditional. Right now, what I'm sharing with you and how you responded and what's going on here right now, my radical honesty right now, that's true happiness. That is what's real. It's funny because we have, my husband's heard this because I said a lot of book tour last year, but the Course in Miracles says happiness is our inheritance and happiness is our function. Right? So if happiness is our inheritance and happiness is our function, and God's will for us is happiness, then that's what we are. It never goes away. Even though for a hot second, I might feel a little unbalanced or a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs or, you know, all over the place, it doesn't mean that I'm not happy. And it doesn't mean that I have lost my light. And it doesn't mean that's the end of the world. And it doesn't mean that I'm wrong or bad. It just means that for one moment, I just forgot who I am. But I have never left the happiness umbrella. I'm still under the happiness umbrella. The happiness umbrella is my divine right. It's my inheritance. Listen, that umbrella is not going anywhere. God created that umbrella for me. I'm doing happiness under that umbrella. That's my umbrella. I'm always happy. That's my inheritance. What happens is that sometimes we forget and we step away from the umbrella and we step out for a moment and forget and kind of dabble in problems, right? Quotation, because there's never, the only problem is the problem that you have in your head and the thoughts that you're thinking. So for one moment you might forget who you are, but in that moment you just remember, again and you come back. But it's never left you. But what happens is this world is backwards because it's driven by the ego. So it's conditional. So we're taught that hard is normal, that depression is normal, that feeling sad is normal, that all these things are normal, going to the doctor, all these things, like we're taught that this is normal. But I'm trying to change things around now to come back to, how about easy is normal? How about easy is normal? How about that's normal? For things to just be easy.
Cheers.
Thank you. How about easy is normal? How about you know, perfect health is normal? Well, what about that? What about is not having problems normal? Do you know what I mean? It's like let's try to change things. Why we're so taught that it has to be like this? It's like, I was asked when my book first came out, I was asked, can you live till, what are you saying? Can you live happy 7 days a week, 24 hours a day? Like, I was asked that a lot on podcasts. And I was like, yeah, you can. Why? Just because for a second you have forgotten who you are, and for a second maybe you're not feeling happy, or you're feeling sad, it doesn't mean you're not happy. Why? Because happiness is your inheritance. Happiness is your function. It's like who you are, what you're born with is pure happiness. It's just for a hot second. Sometimes we just forget, but we remember again. So it's possible to live happy Monday through Sunday, 24 hours a day, because that's where you are. It's just that you think that certain things are happening outside of you, certain circumstances, certain situations that are happening outside of you that you're believing and you're making them matter, which takes away your peace. So your job as a light worker, your job if you're living your happy, is to embody the principles fully, and regardless of what's going outside in form, you keep your peace as best as you can. That's all you could do. That's what live your happy is. It's right now I'm all over the place, and my job is to cultivate my peace and stay in my peace as best as I can. And it's always going to look different. Yes, tomorrow's going to look different than it looked like today. But there's something to be said about walking the talk, about living the principles. I struggled for so long studying the Course in Miracles for, I could say, 18 years. Really studying it and going to my course group once a week. And self-help books. I was a self-help book junkie, you know. How many could relate to that? You know, I was back in the day Anthony Robbins when he had the cassette tapes. That's how long ago it was that I've been doing these things. And mantras, and I am the light, and I am the light of the world, and going to my course group, and feeling the presence of God, and then Friday, feeling like shit. It's like Monday, I felt great, I'm in my group, and then Friday, what happened? So what happens is that I recognize as I started to live this experience, is that I started to see that I wasn't living the principles of the Course in Miracles. I was living them for a hot second in my course group, but that's it. They would be out the window later. So how I began to live my happy is every day I began to embody the principles. And what does that look like? Like what I just did right now. I embody the principles by walking in here and being authentic. And being like, hey, you know what, guys? I wrote a book called Live Your Happy, and I'm not very happy right now. That is living your happy.
Being free.
Being free, being non-judgmental about it. No judgments. You know what? I don't have it all together. That's living my happy. I have no judgments. I was judging myself before until she kindly pointed it out. My dear sister pointed it out to me that I wasn't allowing myself to not have it together. I had to have it together. I wasn't allowing myself that space. And as I sit here, living my happy is saying, hey, you know what? I have forgotten who I am, but now I'm starting to come back. And thank you guys for showing up, as you guys are reminding me too how I come back, right? So the ego trick is something really big, because it's like I could have, I would have, I wish I would have done it better. You know, like I should have done it like this, or I should do it like that, or I should be like that, or you know what, I should feel super peaceful as I walk into the store today, and I should have it all together because I'm a Course in Miracles teacher. That's the ego's trick. That's the ego's trick. It's like it's constant in our minds. Haven't you guys felt that you're constantly judging yourself because of the shoulds, right? I had one time a girl I was coaching, and she was sitting on the chair. Her name was, I'm going to call her right now Patricia, because I don't like to say the names of people I counsel, but she said, Maria, I wish that I would have, in my last relationship, because she was very heartbroken, I wish I wouldn't have acted so jealous. Because if I wouldn't have acted jealous, he would still be with me. Do you see how the ego tricks us? Thinking about something that has already happened, that you can't go back and change, it's crazy. She can't go back in time now and change what she did. She did, as I always say, and people love this, and this has had much healing when I say this, which is we always do the best we can with the awareness we have in the moment. We do the best we can. If I told her, if you knew how to do it differently, you would, but you were. So you're saying that you wish you wouldn't have been yourself? You wish you would have pretended so that he could be with you? Is that what you wanted to do? Do you see what I'm saying? So the ego is very tricky. It's always like, I could have, I would have, I wish I would have done it better. or always thinking about the past or the future. So we must recognize that, and that's what I do. It's like, okay, listen, I did the best I could earlier with my breastfeeding, with getting my bottles together, with getting my baby to, you know, to the grandmothers. You know, I did the best I could, and now I'm here. You know, and it's beautiful because my dad was driving like, I mean, I don't know what was going on, but he got me here. You know, we got here on time. You know, but my ego would want to think things from the past, but I don't, because it's gone. So that's how I stay in my center, by keeping my thoughts very present. It's like if I get, it's as if I get here at 7, it's okay. It's exactly perfect. Within the chaos, within the imperfection is the perfection. We judge it. We judge it. I was listening to Eckhart Tolle recently that he says that he was, you know, in a workshop, and he's one of my, I love Eckhart Tolle, by the way. I love his teaching. He's amazing. He had a talk once, and there was about 300 people waiting for him. Then they couldn't find the key. He's about to go in, and everybody's waiting outside. They can't get in the door. There's no key. And you know, Eckhart Tolle's so cute. You know, he's like, he just stands there. He'll probably be like this. Right? Right? Like the Latina version of him. That's what he does. You know? So he's just there, present. And he says that he just went along the line and said hi to everyone through the line. And then all of a sudden, by the time he got to the last person in line, the door opened. And the key was there. People went in. And he said something that was beautiful. He says, you would think it's chaos. You would think there's something wrong because the door's not open. But it's exactly perfect. Because he got to say hi to everyone. Everybody got to have a one-on-one connection with him. And he was able to experience those people like that way. If not, he would have just come on stage and that would have been it, right? So now the dynamic changed. So you see how important it is. Like, there's such perfection in everything. It's like exactly how I got here, exactly how I feel, exactly the way I'm talking, the conversation I had with Laura. It's perfect. It's perfect for the healing. If I judge it as imperfect, I'm not living my happy. See, our judgments, the ego's trick is to have judgments. And we want to judge everything. You know, judge the circumstances. How many of you feel all over the place? Like, we really, like, honestly.
2 hands.
You feel all over the place? Yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah. This is for us. This workshop is for us. Shit, I feel all over the place too. I think that this workshop should be called I feel all over the place.
Shit. I feel all over the place.
Shit. And you know what this workshop is about? It's about being okay with that. Living your happy means that you embrace things fully and you just live that, hey, I don't have it all together. I'm a spiritual student. I'm studying the Course of Miracles, and you know what? I still feel like crap. It's okay. It's all good. Now, you don't want to stay in that misery. Your job is to live your happy, is to stop yourself. Listen, you have every right to say stop. Stop it. You have every right. It's your divine right. If your inheritance is happiness, and your inheritance and your function is happiness, and God's will for you is happiness, you have every right to say stop it. Para, ¿verdad? Para. Para coño, como decimos en español, ¿verdad? It's like, my dad, sorry for the bad word. It's the
first time.
Yeah, it's the first time, no more. Ya, para, stop it. You know, you have every right to do that, and that's living your happy. It's like, stop it. And that's what I did in the room before I came here. I said, stop it. I said, Maria, you're doing the best you can. You are all over the place. You just had a baby 5 months ago. Cut yourself some slack. Love yourself. It's all good. It's all good. And I say this to you guys, it's all good. It's okay. That's how I live my happy, is by embracing that and being authentic. I always say authenticity is sexy. You know, when you're authentic, I get to hang out with you. I get to experience you. You know, when you're authentic, like right now, I said, are you all over the place? And most of you said yes, and he didn't raise his hand, but he looked at me. He says, I am. That is very, very attractive to me because I get to experience my brother. I get to experience him because he's exposed himself. The ego likes to have private thoughts. The ego doesn't like to be exposed. The ego doesn't like to share its feelings. The ego doesn't like to expose itself. And live your happy, you expose yourself. You just expose yourself. And it looks different. It doesn't mean that you have to be like me, and I'm a very extroverted person. It doesn't have to look like me, like, you know? It doesn't have to be that way. For you, it might be different than for you. You didn't raise your hand. You just said to me, Maria, yeah, it's all over the place, right? That's your way of communicating. But that's being authentic. So it looks different for everybody else. The whole thing is to be willing to be authentic. How you begin to live your happy is when you begin to decide and have willingness. The Course in Miracles says, all I need is a little bit of willingness and miracles happen. You have to have that willingness. And I have that willingness. I have that willingness every day when I wake up. But I don't say, the Course in Miracles says little willingness. Do you need a paper or
I have something here.
Oh, okay.
And a little box.
Oh, okay, good. So, I say, you know what I say? I don't say little willingness. I say big willingness. I talk about it in my book. You need to have big, humongous willingness to be able to have shifts happen, you know? And the reason I say big willingness is because for me, it had to be that way. For me, I had to start to no longer compromise. And that takes something. And I'm going to say another one bad word. It takes cojones to really, really want to change. It's not easy. It's easier, it seems like, to just be in the world like dying. I said I was like dying. I was going to the course groups and I was studying the books, but I was like dying. I wasn't alive. I wasn't practicing. I wasn't living it. It's like, I am love, you know, the Course says I am love, I am light. And then I am love, I am light, and let me go look for my happiness outside of myself during the week. Let me go on dates and meet men and give over my power, make men my God. I am love, I am light. Let me look for somebody outside to complete me. Does that make sense? So there's no balance there. It's like, it's like I had to get to a point that I'm like, I am love and I am love, period. Or it's, I'm abundance. I am abundance, but I'm gonna worry about my bank account. Does that make sense? So you could think about it all day long. You could think these thoughts all day long. You can be going to your course groups. You could be meditating. You could be doing yoga. You could be thinking and learning and learning. Although if you don't embody it and show up in your life and live the principles of taking responsibility, of letting go of judgments, of being very good at being vigilant, saying stop it, and choosing the voice of spirit consistently as you wake up in the morning till you go to sleep, that's what living your happy is. And it looks different for all of us, and sometimes you're really good at it and sometimes you're not so good. But living your happy means not having judgments of that, right? The time has come to stop the learning, the information. Listen, we have the information, we've studied left and right, we've done the course lessons, 365 lessons, if we've done them or not done them. You've read the books. How many of you have read self-help books? Tell me, how many? Everybody here has read self-help books. Okay, how many? Have you done kumbaya and like some meditation work?
Yeah,
okay,
kumbaya.
Yoga, kumbaya.
Kumbaya 1 and 2.
1 and 2. Have you done retreats?
Advanced.
You know, have you put your essential oils up your nose and up your ears or whatever it is? All these things. You've done it all, right? I love Laura's like, I've done it all. We've done it all. The time has come. The time has come to get to work. The time has come to get to work. Like the learning, the university, everything that's done. There's so much information in your head, you don't even know what to do with it, right? The time has come to embody it and get to work, people. That's how you live your happy, is by getting to work and not compromising anymore. Like even if I don't want to, I'm gonna take responsibility. Even if I don't want to, I'm gonna forgive. Even if I don't want to. Do you know how hard that is? Because we want to compromise and we want to make exceptions. Because why? We want to change, we want to be happy, but not really. Does that make sense? But not really. It's like, it's very unconscious. We feel we want to change. We feel we want to be in the zone. We feel that. Although our actions and the way we're being and our thoughts are not in relation to that. Have you noticed? It's like it has to be full. It has to be fully committed, right? So it's interesting. Just look at your life of how you do forgive, or but not everything. Does that make sense? Or you have you're not judging. You're not judging, but are you not judging everything? Do you know what I mean? It's like it has to be whole. It has to be complete. That's the way we live our happy, is like by no longer compromising. And the way that I say this with such conviction is because I lived compromising it a lot for so many years, and I struggled a lot because I was constantly compromising it. I would constantly go into victimization. I was constantly looking for happiness outside of myself. I was constantly looking for happiness in a man, in relationships. My dad could tell you. You could sit down and have a conversation with you, all the boyfriends I had. You know, Christian always asks me at this point, how many? I tell him, don't worry about it. My mom says, you don't need to know everything. Constantly looking for to be complete outside of myself. So constant state of completion. And what is that for you? How have you tried to complete yourself with things external, right? Mine has been relationships. I've been wanting to complete myself by having another body, and that body completes me. And I suffered a lot because of that. Not only that, I was an actress for many years, and my career defined me. My career defined me. Being an actress defined me. That's what made me whole and complete. So I was walking along this world with this sensation of trying things to complete me, and it was a lonely world, a lonely time. I felt alone. How many of you can relate to that? Like just feeling so depleted, feeling so empty, just walking around, just looking for something outside to fill you. And I got to the point that I looked so much outside to fill me that when I started to really do this work and not compromise anymore, have exceptions, what happens is that I recognized that I was looking for love. There's this famous what do you call it? Kind of phrase.
Yeah.
Saying. Yeah. I was looking for love in all the wrong places.
Right.
The love that I was looking for was a love I already had, which is the love of God, which is the only love that can complete. And that is when ding, 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 you know, like the bell started to go off. I was like, oh, I'm onto something here. Like, this is what I want to cultivate. And there's a chapter in my book that's called "You Are the Love of Your Life," and I was going to make it a chapter of relationships, because hey, I want to talk about relationships because that's been my big thing in this lifetime, right? But when I was editing my book with Patrick, which he helped me to do the book, I started to realize that it's not going to be a relationship book. It's actually going to be, it is going to be a relationship book, but it's going to be a relationship with yourself. Like, I am the love of my life, because that's the only way you're going to have good relationships, is when you recognize that you are the love of your life, you know? And I started to recognize that I had to go deep, and living your happy is really, you want to go deep and you want to heal your grievances. You really want to heal them to the core. Even if you don't want to, it has felt good for me to go back in time and heal my relationships with men, or to go back in time and to look at my stuff, or to consistently every day wake up and choose love. It's not easy. It's not fun sometimes, but I do it anyways because I know I'm going to feel better later. So I'll go to the story of where I created this process. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. It's called the 7-Step Fearless Process in my book. It was in the transformation room. I think they shared it there, but it's in my book. And it's a beautiful story, because I was sitting on my couch, and I had just finished a talk. I had just given a powerful talk at Unity of Burbank, and I sat on the couch. And as I sat on the couch, after a powerful talk, I was thinking about this gentleman that I was dating at the time, that had just literally told me that he wasn't boyfriend material, and he wasn't emotionally available. Like basically, he's not good in relationships, right? So after giving this powerful talk at Unity, this is how cuckoo the world is. I'm sitting down thinking about how I can text him and try to figure out how I can get him over to my house. And I'm trying to think of how I could, maybe tell him I'm going to make some pasta, or, hey, I'm going to make some pasta tonight. I don't know. Anyways, so I caught myself trying to like do this, and I was like, I started to get anxious, and I started to get fearful, and I was like trying to make this text so this guy could come over. And he had just told me yesterday that he's not emotionally available. Like, what is going on with me? And I just gave a type of unity, like, I'm all over the place, right? So at that moment, when I'm sitting there on the couch, I just realized my mind going crazy, and I recognized at that moment that I was doing what I constantly do, which is look something outside of me to fill me by trying to make this person want to come over, or entice him. And I started to recognize how much I've been suffering in relationships, of trying to be in a relationship and trying to make things happen and manipulate and control. And at that moment, I was like, why can't I have the opposite of this? Why can't I have the opposite of this? Why can't I feel at peace? Why do I have to try to manipulate and write a text and try to figure out if I should put this emoji or heart or exclamation point? It's like this is so heavy. This is so so just not in alignment. And why can I experience being the love of my life? When can I experience that I'm worthy of this love? And I began to cry. And I began to say, I want to feel worthy of being in a relationship. I want to feel worthy of experiencing my ministry with somebody and show up in my life with somebody that says, hey, I really want to be with you. Can I experience that? Can I experience that fully, that love? And at the moment I channeled of this time, this moment just came through me. It wasn't like a voice, it was an inspiration of where I got, you need to forgive. It's like, I need to forgive? I need to forgive what? And I got an insight, which was, you need to forgive your father. So my biological father passed away when I was 3 months old, and I was told to forgive my father. My father committed suicide when I was 3 months old. He tried about a dozen times until he finally shot himself in the head. And the Spirit was telling me, you gotta forgive your father. But not only that, the Spirit said, you gotta forgive all the men in your life. And I was like, holy moly, it's a lot of men. Don't ask.
I always ask at that point, like, how many? She never told me. To this day.
So at that moment, you see, that's what Live Your Happy is that I had to get to a point of like, I was really willing. And then I had to go back in time and forgive. And I did. I went back in time and I forgave. And I looked at my relationship with my father that was extremely strained. And I went back in time and I thought about my father. And I thought about what I thought that he had done to me. Or what or that he left me. And I got really honest about the story. And the story was that it was basically the story that I made up in my head was that he had abandoned me. And that he left me. And that how selfish of him to like leave my mother and a 3-month-old baby, like how dare he? I had all this stuff inside of me, I didn't even know it was there. So as the stuff started to come up again, guys, do you think this was easy? No, it sucked. It sucked to feel these feelings that I had. And then what I got from Spirit, because what happens is when we start to cultivate this voice in our mind and we start to give over to Spirit, Spirit starts to speak. Spirit said to me, your father did you a service. And I was like, okay, well, how does that work? What kind of service is that? The service is that he checked out of here for your higher good because he would have hindered your path. So he gave you space to be able to shine, because if he would have been in your life, was very jealous, he would have hindered your life. So he actually, such a noble act was that he gave you the space and he checked out so that my spirit could fully shine in this lifetime. And then what happens is that when I'm 2 years old, my father comes into my life, of where now this father is given to me and chosen so that I can shine. And then I have a person in my life that is supportive, loving, kind, didn't push his upbringing on me. allowed me to live and be fully self-expressed. So you would think that that's not perfect. That what happened to my dad is not perfect. That's horrible. My dad passed. No, it's actually so perfect because it gives space for this beautiful human to come into my life and to be such a light for me. It's as if it's so beautiful because I remember that he's all about school and being intellectual and going to university, and that was my thing. My thing is I was an actor and I was I'm basically self-made. He would always say to me, "You're street smart. You'll be fine." He's like, "You're street smart." He's like, and I was like, "Dad, but I'm not good at math. Don't worry, you have a calculator. You have your fingers." It's just so beautiful that even though he had the way that he was, he allowed me to just be and be free. So within these things that happen in life, they seem like catastrophes, but they're not. I remember within the meditation, I was such in despair. I was going down every relationship I had, going back in time. And there's a moment that I was like, Holy Spirit, I just want to experience love. I just want to experience a healthy relationship. I want to experience my ministry with someone. I want to be a mother. No one experienced being a mother in this lifetime. I want all these things. I want to heal of where I got from Spirit. This is where it starts to get really good. Spirit's insight was, no, you're not. I was like, no, I'm ready. Oh, no, you're not. What do you mean? Every day I'm crying. Every day I'm kumbaya with the candles. I'm saying forgiveness. I'm writing letters. I'm typing in the computer and I can't even see my screen because my eyes are so welled up I can't see. What do you mean I'm not ready? What do you mean, right? No, you're not ready. That is where Live Your Happy started to be born in me because I wasn't. I had to get honest about that. So we all need to get honest of how we are not showing up, how we're not pumping up the volume in the Holy Spirit voice in our minds. Like we don't really want to do the work, really, right? So really doing the work is what I did today, is that I owned my stuff. I had non-judgment of the way I was feeling. I accepted myself fully of where I'm at. And my job is also to accept, my husband fully at this time with all the dynamics that are going on. That's how I live my happy. It's not checking out of here and saying, hey, this is over, like how I would do in the past because I'm so scared or frightened. No, it's sticking around. We're in it to win it, right, babe? We're in it to win it. That's what I always say. It's like we're in it to win it. How do we do that? We do that by showing up and living the principles. And I have to say, and I have to be really honest, it takes something. It takes something, and the first ingredient is being very honest. Like you were. You said, I'm all over the place. That's what I had to do. I had to be honest with Laura and expose myself. I didn't say anything, and she just basically got it. She's like, yeah, I feel you. She has 2 kids too. I feel you. It's okay. So living my happy is being loving to myself. Hey, Maria, you know what? It's good. It's okay. It's okay. But I get scared. Because why? Because my father, the first male role in my life that appears what? He abandoned me. That's the first role, that's the first experience I have with a man is that he leaves. So that's what I go to. So when I have my issues with Christian or I feel insecure and I feel he's gonna check out of here, my job is just to remember that he doesn't complete me. And that is a daily thing for me. A daily thing for me. This person does not complete me. It's hard. Because I feel so much that he does. Because I'm scared. I don't trust in God's love. I don't trust that I'm taken care of by God. I need this individual to fulfill me. So every day I live my happy by continuing to tell him. We share this thing called no private thoughts, no people pleasing. Hey babe, I'm scared shitless, you're gonna leave me. I'm scared shitless, you're gonna leave me. Do you know how big that is for me to say? Why? Because I expose myself. I expose myself fully. Listen, I'm scared. This is a good one. This is a good one.
Darling,
yesterday.
Give it to me.
No, yesterday. There's nothing wrong with you. Just like there's nothing wrong with me. We're both doing the best we can. We're both doing the best we can. At the beach, At the beach, we're at the beach, and he says,
First thing in the morning, we go to the beach.
First thing in the morning, we go to the beach.
Something's coming up. Something's cooking.
Or something's always cooking. Every day there's like an elephant, or I say the elephant or the monkeys are in, you know, in the house. Elephants and monkeys every freaking day. What's the elephant now? What's the monkey now? And I love the way she said it. She's like, there's no balance. It's just this is a world of chaos. And how you live your happy is that regardless of the chaos, you're willing and committed to be happy, no matter what, and at peace.
Yeah.
Whatever, regardless of what's going on in form, is to make it matter as little as you can. It's like really not make it matter. Don't give it weight, you know? So, this is a good one. This is a good one. He's
105 degrees, man.
105 degrees. He takes out his beach chair. I take
Remember,
out
you
my
guys, you
beach
have all your
chair.
stuff with you. Lay down on the beach.
Lay down on the beach, yes. And then he says, I gotta tell you, babe, there's a problem here. I go, what is it? You know, I'm in my good space, you know. I meditated in the morning. I did my walk. I'm in kumbaya mode, right, guys? And then he says, you know, babe, you know, I have a thing, you know, it's hard for me, you know, your body, like how your body looks or how you look in form. I'm not attracted to you in body stuff.
Where's it? Here.
That is so cool.
Can you imagine? Exactly. I was like, what? And then he's saying this, and then my job is, and he knows I did this. My job is to not make it matter. My job is to not take it personal. It's like, hey, you know what? You know, there's judgments that I have about his body, or like a way that I would like his body to be. Although I've transcended that, because I've been through so much shit with men that I've learned that form doesn't matter as much, and he has too, actually. It's just that he had this on his mind, and he needed to get it out there. And he's so loving to say that to me. It is loving because he's being honest. And we all have these private thoughts and think things about people, but we want to people please and pretend. So I acknowledge him for being honest. Is it hard to hear? Of course. Is it hard for him to say? Of course it is. He loves me. It's not hard. It's not easy for him to say that. But my job is not to make it matter. I live my happy by saying, hey, you know what, babe? This is all we got. This is what it looks like. I got home. I said, this is what it looks like. I'm tall. I'm a little bigger than I used to be, you know, because I just had the baby 5 months ago. This is all we got. You know, I have these big breasts right now that, you know, because they're filled with milk. And you know what? I took off my clothes and I walked around the whole house naked for the whole day. And I exposed myself. I just walked around. I was like, you know what? This is what you got. And I didn't cover my butt. I showed everything. I didn't walk away and, you know, cover my butt. I said, look, this is my butt. And I walked around the whole house. And then we got in front of the mirror together, naked. We just got in front of the mirror. I said, this is what we look like, babe. This is what we look like. Don't we look funny? Yeah, we look funny. We look so funny together because I'm tall and he's little. It's like I'm the elephant, he's a mouse, you know? It's like, that's the funniest thing. And that's what live your happy is. It's just being honest. It's like, hey, you know what? This is what we got. And that's how we start to let go of judgments.
Such a beautiful healing, you know, that happens.
Yeah.
You know, how many couples look at themselves in the mirror naked together and say, you know, look at our bodily form, you know, doesn't it look, you know, beautiful or funny or whatever, or just doing it.
It's amazing, and from every angle that you can look at it, you know, to have the space, because actually that's what love is, you know, to have the space to be who I am. And, you know, for me to be able to say, look, your body looks not attractive to me right now, it takes a lot of love from both of you. And amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's what living the book is. You know, I talk about the principles, and it's like you want to embody them, and that's how you embody them. You know, my ego. So this is how I distinguish. You know, the ego and the Holy Spirit. So my ego would personalize that, like make it personal. Like, what's wrong with me? What do you mean? The ego would then justify it. But I had a kid 5 months ago. Blah 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 blah. You know, so I have a right to have this body. So that would be the ego justifying it. The Holy Spirit's more gentle, more kind, more loving. It's more accepting. It's like, hey, you know what? It's exactly perfect. Like, this is what I look like. You know, more so is allowing him to be able to share that and not judge him about it. Listen, this is not, the funny thing is that this has nothing to do with my body, and it has nothing to do with what he said. It's what's underneath it all. The the body thing and the comment is just the symbol. What's the healing is, the healing is to let go of our judgments. And me judging him that he's judging my body is continuing the cycle instead of holding space and allow him to do, be wherever he is or be wherever he's at. So Kathy, my beautiful sister, she's my sister. We're actually doing relationship enhancement. It's not relationship counseling; it's called relationship enhancement, of where she helps us in our relationship. So I said, Christian, why don't you call? You're having this situation with my body, which is amazing right now. Very voluptuous, and go talk to Kathy about it. And and see what she says. Because it's nice to like Laura today. Sometimes we also need, even though we practice most of the time and we experience peace and happiness more on a regular basis. Sometimes we forget, and we need our friend or sister, brother, somebody to remind us. So I said, call Kathy and see what she says. And it was beautiful because Christian kind of got it for himself. But I don't even know how many times it's been that my ego wants to judge him, or I see how I have fear of abandonment, but I see how I also want to run. I see how I also don't want to stay. It's interesting because the ego would make it like he would go, and I think that secretly I would probably be the first one to go. But I put it on him like he would be the one. Do you know what I mean? So it's very tricky.
You know where you do that?
Yeah.
You know where you do that?
Yeah.
Do you want me to tell you?
Go ahead.
She said yeah. She knows.
Do you know why you do that?
Yeah, because
why you would run first?
Because I don't want to heal completely. I want to, I don't want to see it.
No, it's because you're so scared of abandonment by a man that you would rather leave first than being left abandoned.
Yeah.
Because then you're
again. Because it's so much pain for you as a child.
Yeah.
That's why you would do it first than letting somebody do that to you.
Yeah, it's true. And this right now, what I'm talking about is how I live my happy, is by being honest about that. And just because I have tears right now, and just because you see my emotion, doesn't mean that I'm not happy. Because happiness is my inheritance. Like, that's what I am. There's nothing wrong with me crying or feeling sad or feeling my feelings or being honest with Christian, But you see, you have to want to do the work. Because your ego sometimes doesn't. You don't want to do the work. Your ego never wants to do the work. So it would have been very easy for me to be like, you know what? You don't like this body? Fuck you, I'm out of here. Right?
What about the anger, right?
Or the anger, or get pissed off, right? Mm-hmm. But my job in Live Your Happy is, I could get angry, okay? I'm not saying that you don't get angry when you live your happy. On the contrary, you get angry, but you feel it. You feel it, you feel the anger, you feel the upset, you're like, wow, I feel very angry right now, I feel very sad right now. And your job is, when you live your happy and when you're studying the Course in Miracles, is you give it over. You say, Spirit, God, I can handle this. Like, I don't even know what this means. Like this, I don't even know what this means. Like, my husband has literally told me that, like, what is this? Like, we don't know anything, right? So that's the job. The job is, you do get angry, you do feel stuff when you are in Live Your Happy mode. The key is to feel it. You gotta feel it to heal it. And most of us don't. And not that we don't, it's just it's hard. It takes something. It takes something for me to react the way I did to Christian yesterday. It takes something to not personalize it, because it's never personal. Because his situation, his issue with my body has nothing to do with me. And my job is not to personalize it. And my job is to love him. To love him for being honest and to give him space. Now, Live Your Happy is not being complacent. It's not, oh, step all over me, That's not Live Your Happy either. I don't want you guys to get it wrong here.
Right.
What it is, what Live Your Happy is, that you're just authentic. You live an authentic life. And this is the ingredient. The ingredient is you need to be very radical. You need to be very radical if you want to live your happy. Radically honest. You want to be radical with the way you practice from the morning to you wake up to at night. You want to be radical. Have radical forgiveness. Radical forgiveness is you forgive even if you don't want to. Why? Because you're going to feel better. And being radical is understanding that you really have everything and you have nothing, and you really want to embody that. So if I have everything and I lack nothing, then how am I going to be with Christian right now? How am I going to talk to him right now? How am I going to react to this situation that's going on with us right now? You know, I see how the mind is so tricky. The ego wants to trick us. And we need to be willing and be radical about choosing the voice of spirit. And that takes something. It wasn't easy for me to accept that comment at the beach. How easy? Is it easy for anybody to receive a comment like that? I mean, that's hard. Especially if my ego says, I'm amazing, I'm breastfeeding our child, you know, I'm such a good mother, who do you think you are, right? How about seeing it differently, guys? And you know, the time here is not to learn anymore. We know already enough. Let's work it. And why work it? By working on it with him and by sharing my feelings. At night, I said to him, at night, go ahead.
Could you expand on the radical? I was looking at the definition, and it just gives me silly things of politics and stuff. When you mean radical, you mean like getting to, like, tell me.
Radical.
I mean, I like it,
yeah.
but I wanted.
Yeah, and I said a lot in the transformation room, this word radical.
Yeah.
Radical basically is for me, radical is extreme. It's like an extreme, wanting to have an extreme change, but radical is not compromising anymore.
Right.
Not making exceptions anymore. That's
Yeah.
being radical. It's like,
Right.
I have no exceptions. Does that make sense? So I have no exceptions in my spiritual practice. So as I walk in life, I'm going to try to not be judgmental, period. That's being very radical.
Yeah, all in.
All in. You're all in. You're all in. And it takes something. It takes me having to listen to this and not personalize it. It takes me not judging it. And it takes me not taking it personal. Isn't that radical? It's radical to be able to stand the way I stood in front of him and what I said. And ask him, I said, well, babe, listen, that's not my problem. It's your problem. You know, because this is, I can't, it's funny because I really can't do anything about it at this point, you know? It's like, I'm taller than you. I'm bigger than you. You know, I'm just a bigger woman. You know, you're like a little mouse, you know? He has a different body type. Like, literally, like, his jeans are like, you know, they're tiny, you know? And it's just different, you know? So this is what we show up like. I show up like this and I show up like that. And it is what it is. You know, but that's me living my happy, is not personalizing and holding space for him. Yes, we recognize he was in ego mode. You know, there's a way to say things. You know, he was coming from a space of fear. I mean, we're not saying that he didn't recognize where that was coming from. Although it doesn't matter where it's coming from. If I'm living my happy, I'm just in charge of my thoughts. I'm just in charge of how I'm going to perceive it. So the Course in Miracles says the only thing that is your duty and the only thing that is your responsibility is how you're going to choose to experience something. That's all we have control over. So I could experience what he said through joy or pain. Choose. I could experience it the way I want. That's the only thing I have, is I get to experience. How am I going to experience this? Through joy or pain. Through joy or pain. Through joy or pain. And again, it takes something. And that's what I had to do in my life. I had to be like, you know what? I no longer compromise. I no longer make exceptions, because I was going to my course group. I was doing all this stuff. Blah, 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 and I wasn't living it. So when you live, you're happy, you step into grace, and you start to practice the principles, and then when you're not practicing them, to not have judgment about it. You're like, hey, I'm doing the best I can. And there's this whole thing about, like, I need to be perfect. You know, we all need to be perfect. You know, how many of us feel like we need to do it perfect, we need to get it right, we need to speak right, we need to be so perfect, we have to be on time. It's this constant perfection. It's not like we're not responsible, we're, you know, we don't try to do things in a timely manner, but let's let ourselves off the hook a little bit. You know, live your happies, you know. Okay, Laura said it perfectly. Listen, I don't have it all together. Just being honest about that is living your happy. Hey, you know what? I don't have it all together. Now I'm going to feel so much better in my relationship with Christian, because tomorrow, when I'm going cuckoo, I'm going to say, baby, listen, I just don't have it all together. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, babe. I don't have it all together. And he's German, so, you know, you have to have it together. You know? So now I'm going to be like, hey, look, you know what, you're not understanding, you go call Laura. She'll tell you. Listen, it's like I don't have it together. And you know what? That's such a beautiful act of self-love, right?
My husband is German.
Husband is German, yeah.
Really? Yeah.
But that's not that far. Like,
No,
between these two
yeah.
is I saw a video of the
Yeah.
Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific down south, and they have different colors and they have different temperature and they don't mix. And sometimes we are like that in the world because of design, yet we can navigate over.
Yeah.
And it's such a beautiful analogy
Mhm.
because I can navigate over all those circumstances and nothing happens.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
And that
That's
is what live your happy is. It's,
Right.
It's no, regardless. People ask me what is happiness to you. Yesterday I was in an interview. It's for the Spanish radio here locally in Miami, and she says, "What is happiness?" I was like, "Happiness is that. Happiness is, regardless of what's going on in form, you do your best with the awareness you have to keep your peace and to be in joy and not make it matter as best as you can."